The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all outliers. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pit bulls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the Apbt, the very first champion off Grand Champion Mayday, the Dog of the Year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, 2-time Best in Show and 2-time Gamest in Show. Going Hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, Damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion Elrod, Champion Yellowbird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all outliers. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pit bulls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the Apbt, the very first champion off Grand Champion Mayday, the Dog of the Year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, 2-time Best in Show and 2-time Gamest in Show. Going Hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, Damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion Elrod, Champion Yellowbird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all outliers. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pit bulls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the Apbt, the very first champion off Grand Champion Mayday, the Dog of the Year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, 2-time Best in Show and 2-time Gamest in Show. Going Hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, Damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion Elrod, Champion Yellowbird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all-out liars. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pit bulls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the Apbt, the very first champion off Grand Champion Mayday, the Dog of the Year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, two-time Best in Show and two-time Gamest in Show. Going Hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, Damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion Elrod, Champion Yellowbird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
The dog game is dying. Let's talk about the game first, not the dogs. It's the challenge of the wins, the competitive addiction, the thrill of the win, and the rewards of achievements. Losing only gives you the drive to come back. I learned to watch the winners, my motivation was there, my dedication was evident, now I'm a winner. The problem is the cheating to win, manipulating the truth, and then it's the all-out liars. How is this sharing our achievements with liars, cheaters, and bullshitters? We have lost the historical value of the dog game. We can't decipher the real from the fake, the lost is the cost. So I salute these dogs of going hard kennels for all that you've given me in the game.
Let's talk about pit bulls. The history, the breeding, the maintaining and feeding, and the controversies surrounding the great hunts. Come interact with the legends, and ask questions, and listen to their stories as we talk about kennels and dogs of the past and present. Hosted by one of the game's most respected kennels, with over 40 years in the hunt, going hard kennels Twin 1 and Twin 2, dogs like Champion the Apbt, the very first champion off Grand Champion Mayday, the Dog of the Year, and Register of Merit. Champion Pretty Mama, two-time Best in Show and two-time Gamest in Show. Going Hard's Bay Bay, Register of Merit, Damn to Champion What a Day, Champion Gus, Champion Elrod, Champion Yellowbird. So pull up a seat, and let's talk dogs.
What up? What up? Big shout out to all my people out there in the Shark Tank. Big shout out to all my people out there on the back street. Y'all know what time it is. It's Hot Like Friday. Hey, y'all don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that like button. Big shout out again to all my peoples out there in the Shark Tank. Let me see who I got out there. Let me see what's going on out there. Big shout out to my man, Bloodthirst #1, aka Havoc 360, coming in the house with them roses and muscles and the thumbs up, all the good shit before we even get started. Hey, say something for the end, Bloodthirst. Big shout out to my man, Mr. Chico Nicholas, representing. What up, fam? My main man, longtime supporter, the one and only Mr. David Morse in the house. What up, fam? J.R. Kennels in the house. I see you, fam. Big shout out to my main man, Elevated Kennels in the house. What up, fam? You want to give a big shout out to Back Row Blacks in the house. What up, fam? Rio in the house. What up, fam? Big shout out to my man, Mr. Derek Lockett in the house. What up, fam? Yo, my man, Green Team in the house. What up, fam? My man, longtime supporter again, the one and only Mr. Dickie Foster in the house. What up, fam? Yo, small time. I see you, fam. Big shout out to City Boy Kennels in the house representing. What up, fam? Okay. Again, big shout out to all my people out there on the back street. Y'all don't forget to hit that like button. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you have not already done so. Hey, look here. Don't forget to take that poll. Remember, there's not a wrong or right answer to the poll. It just gives us a little in-depth look to see how the community feels about a certain things. And I think this is one of them kind of conversations where it can go either way. Now, remember, we live by the disclaimer. So anything and everything that we talk about over here, we talk about the past. You know what I'm saying? So we keep it in the past, and we're just going to talk about our experience, and based on our experience and our knowledge of the people we have met throughout our experience in the game of the American Pit Bull Terriers, how things were, how they changed over the years, and is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? You know, I'm going to start my part off because I think the most important thing about running a camp when you got other people involved, you know, the main ingredients: honor, loyalty, trustworthiness, integrity, and love of the dogs. Everybody got to be on the same page. Like any other business adventure, whether you're corporated or limited liability corporations, anytime that you get a group of people together, you know, to deal with a single mission. I put it like that, a single mission, because that's what you're doing. You're coming together and you're running a program. One of the things I liked about people who were running programs, it made it, you know, I'm going to tell you, between the solos and the programs, it has its pros and cons. I'm going to start it like that. You know, some of the pros I always felt about it is we always had a chance to sit down and discuss everything, map out game plans, talk about things. You know, you didn't have the responsibility of the program based on one decision. It was always going to be a group decision, you know. And that also had its pros because everybody traveled together. You know, we able to lock up things a lot easier. The stress just wasn't on the back of one person compared to people who did things in a solo manner. Knew a couple of them. They pretty much didn't have the big yards. Didn't do a lot of breeding. You know, and it took, you know, and the ones that I knew, I can truly say they handled it very well. So I think the cons to running it with a camp with with different people is one of my biggest faults is everybody has to be responsible for the job that they have to the camp. You know, you had some people that had dogs on the yard who, you know, might not share the same way of care for the dogs as other people in the camp. And things like that very seldomly ever happened. But And again, you had other things that went wrong, like dogs coming up missing, uh, unknown breedings that happen without other people knowing, the other people at your camp knowing, selling dogs, other people at the camp not knowing. I mean, in other words, you can fall short on the more simple things like the honesty, the loyalty to the camp, the integrity, just to do something and lie about it. I've seen situations where that has actually happened on a couple occasions. But when it comes down to it, which one was easier? I could understand both sides, because when you solo, you don't really have to worry about the dumb things that come along. You don't have to argue with nobody. Whatever decisions you make, they fall upon you. And what it is, it is. So most of the time you try to keep a manageable program that you can handle, and you don't have to worry about dealing with all the other things that comes with the big camps. We've heard some of the big camps where they had the falling outs and everybody went on, wind up doing their own separate things and how they did certain things, which was not a bad thing. It's just the reality of, sometimes people just chose to do things a different way, and then they just fall apart. Now we've had, those camps. Remember True Colors used to be a pretty big camp, but when it was all said and done, the only member that really kept the True Colors name was Tony Rogers. He never, he stuck to the True Colors situation. Another one I would say did really good solo would be Mama. Ran a pretty tight camp, ran solo, didn't have the headaches that came along, and he still kept a pretty, cool breeding program. Abrahams, you still had Joe and Nate. They ran a pretty nice put together camp, even though they didn't have that big yard, but everything that they did all the way down to their breeding program, was successful because, I think the brother thing worked out a lot more from my standpoint because, again, I said Joe and Nate, but then I had Mr. Ted McNasty. They did a lot of dogs, but they shared the responsibility. And I guess it's harder to, do something wrong with your brother compared to doing things wrong with other, compared to other people you bring in. Like we have, as far as our camp, we had a pretty nice, it wasn't just me and Mo. We had Ben, who had a whole lot to do with that. We had Gameville, in their younger years as they were coming up. They were always around, learned a lot. We had our KP, he was involved. So I would call we weren't solo. We were a bit more like a camp. We didn't have a lot of people that was involved, but we had people who was responsible outside what we had on the yard. Like Ben lived in another state, so we could send dogs to Ben, and he would raise them. We could send dogs to my son. He would raise them. Gameville, when they was early in the game, a lot of dogs we didn't use, they used. So, the pros and cons was about how you did it was based on how active you were. See, we were pretty active. So a lot of things that we did, you know, was based off how active we were. A lot of guys weren't as active as we were, um, but in tow, I thought it was easier for us to have as many dogs and be as active as we were because of the many hands that were involved. So I just wanted to see how the community felt about it. You know what I mean? Because it's just something that, you know, we're coming into this new age, and the old days is pretty much to the wayside, and we just looked at it from a different standpoint as far as how we were raising our dogs from little bitty puppies up until, you know, it was time for them to serve a purpose. Stone City was another camp that, you know, you still had Tony and Jesse, but there were other people that were responsible for a lot of dogs that they had farmed out. A lot of dogs that they had farmed out. Victor wasn't solo. I know he had Cuban Missing Link and Angel. You know, that was a pretty, you know, nice combination on how they worked their hand. So I always just felt like good, loyal camps that stuck together always had better success. Not taking nothing away from the solo people, because there's been a lot of solos out there that did just as much as some of the bigger kennels, but kind of look at it like, you know, that puts a lot of strain on the solo man. And that, you know, you would think that's just common sense, where we could work 2 or 3 dogs. Sometimes people with one, they would just, you know, it's just them. They do just one dog at a time. So I always felt like the camp situation gave us a better chance to look at more dogs over a short amount of time period compared to somebody just doing solo and maybe one dog every couple months, or maybe once or twice a year. But it did, it, you know, it happens. I just feel like you have less drama when it's just you by yourself. I can understand that point, you know, because there was a lot of guys who, you know, started out in camps and broke off and wound up doing things on their own. But what is the downfall when you got two, you know, a big old camp and things just go haywire? I've seen that happen and to a point to where friendships was lost. You know, I think we had a situation like that before. Somebody part of the camp dogs came up missing, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you'd be wondering, you know, that's it. You know, when certain things happen, you know, first thing come in, was it something, this was a fluke situation, or was it an inside job? You know, the things that you don't want to talk about. Well, that's why we talk about it, because partnerships in these dogs have been, for the most, as far as I know, have been great. I think Ricky Jones was, even though he was solo, Rebel Kennels, they were solo, but him and Kenny Allen had their hands on a lot of things together. So separate, I would say, but they had a good relationship that you would almost call them a camp. You know what I mean? because they done so much together that it was kind of like, you're going into one, you can damn near best believe you're going to be dealing with both of them. Supernat was another one. Um, Dixieline Connection was a good camp that had some very distinguished dog men. When they came together, they put together some good ass dogs, which produced some good matches throughout the years. They had the breeders, they had the conditioners, they had everything they needed. That is one of the main reasons I felt that they were successful, because they had every angle covered. Everybody knew their job, and you could always tell based on their record. Super Kennels, STP. I know STP did break up. I think Captain America was with STP for some time, but then he went off and did his own thing, but they kept the STP, and still one was always, the STP, the group, even without Captain America, he was able to still be able to get around, but maybe not as much as he was getting around and as active as he was when he was with STP. But these are things that, for me, matters moving forward, only because when you get out here and you're doing solo things, anytime you're doing things solo, yeah, you're always going to be more comfortable. But I think the success of the American Pit Bull Terrier and this community is always going to be more profitable. And when I say profitable, I think there's a lot that the community can do together that you couldn't do if you were doing it by yourself. When you're doing things by yourself, you're taking on a big responsibility. That's why you see most people who run business, we designate jobs. We try to take as much off our plate and put them in responsible people's hands, so we are not dealing with the task of trying to do everything. And again, when you're doing it yourself, who you got to worry about trusting? You know what I mean? Who you got to worry about taking care of your dogs? Even with us coming up, we still had our children, that played a major part. That's a little different because they didn't get involved with what we were doing. All they got involved with was to cleaning up of the yard and taking dogs for walks. Amazingly, I think our kids never really knew what we were doing ever until they were damn near where they were grown. Actually, they were grown and off living their lives before they realized their dad and their uncle used to fight dogs. You know what I'm saying? But let me see here. Let me go down here and get some more shout outs to my people out here. Big shout out to my man Walnut PA in the house. I see you, fam. My man Double M Desbo, bite down and shake that like button. I see you, fam. Yo, Chico, what up, fam? Big shout out to Cosmo and Cal TV in the house. What up, fam? Yo, my man Mr. O's in the house. What up, fam? Mr. O said, what's good? I'm on the no train with this one. Had a partner that was a piece of shit. Stolen dogs, no accountability. This went on and on. That's a good one, Mr. O, because that's truth. There's truth in that. That's why, you hear me always pushing this, the loyalty, the honesty, the integrity. You know, you got to have the right people doing the right job, you know, and that is so hard to find in anything that you do. You know, just to even talk about partners in anything was kind of like, now, brothers for brothers, even brothers is hard to do. Because I've seen some brothers do some backstabbing, you know, where they, even I've seen brothers fall out over these damn dogs. Big shout out to my man, Marcus B in the house. What up, Marquise? Big shout out to Mega Fit 12782 in the house. What up, fam? Let me see right here. Mega Fit said JB is STP, 24 champions, 5 grand champions. About that something. Yeah, they were good. They were good. But again, y'all hear me speak highly of Super Kennels because that was a camp. And they did very well. And even though I see that record at STP, I'm just telling you, Super Kennels had more champions and grand champions than STP. You know, some of y'all find that hard to believe and hear, but it's a true fact, fellas. But we still dealing with different people at different times, but in the same token, both them camps still exist all around the same time. But the good thing that you have to respect about both camps is they always were close knitted. From what I knew of them, you know, so, and the works actually speaks for itself. Because another one that there was a big camp, and I would think that was Most Wanted. They were a big camp, and they had a lot of champions. They never caught up with STP and Super Kennels, but they was on their way. DSK was another one. You know, a lot of them guys, man, when you had the masterminds working together, you just had the success for their success was just based off a combination of a group of people. Some of you guys probably heard of the Untouchables. That was a camp. They worked hand in hand. VBK, even though it was Vero brothers, but they still had a camp. And they were able to produce and do a lot of dogs. And that's where I'm at with this, being able to do a lot of dogs, you know, over a certain time period and let the dog speak for itself. You didn't have the falling outs, and they just stayed true to what a partnership's supposed to look like. In today's world, I think it would be easier if you were doing with the confirmation shows and things like that. I think it takes a lot of the strain off of the responsibilities of others, because you can make a great dog in today's world just doing it by yourself. Your own conditioning, taking the dog to the shows, presenting it, your work. And then your breeding program can be phenomenal, just based off of the recognition that you create for yourself. When we were dealing with the big camps for us, it was kind of like you go through, you get a one-time winner, and that one-time winner might not see the box for like another 6-7 months due to, there's other ones that need to be seen that you have to prep for. So by the time you come around back to the one-time winner, you're almost, 6, 8 months, and sometimes a year later. So, and I guess that's why we had a lot of 1 and 2 time winners, because we was running through so many dogs at the time that, we tried to give a fair shot to everything that we actually had on the yard. And a lot of the big kennels was like that. That's why we were always, for a lot of years, it was always somewhere to travel to go see something. So again, times change, but I'm only speaking for the past. And like I said, it was times where we used to go have them cookouts, and these, lots of people, a lot of camps meeting up, having conversations, talking about a lot of things. But to even run a camp, again, you have to have the major pieces in order to be successful at it. Let me see. My man Marcus B said, half the battle to having a good kennel partner, there are plenty of terrible stories. Yes. Plenty of them. That's why it's unique when you talk about the ones that were what it looks like when you see the ones that were successful. Most of the big camps, and I call them big camps because that's what they be. I think anytime you're dealing with 2 or more, 3 or more, that's a camp. One's a solo. He's taking full responsibility of everything. 2, 3, that means you're spreading the responsibility. So yeah, Marcus, half the battle is having a good partner. There are plenty of terrible stories out there, and you could just go back if you're familiar with the history of these dogs. Trust me, that part is no secret. Let me see. I'm gonna put this link out here. And the only reason I'm putting a link out there because I want to see. Hold on, let me do this like this. Hold on 1 second. All right, I put that link out there just in case somebody wanted to get up there and put their 2 cents in and tell us, share some of them horror stories, because they out there. Let me see. JR Boy says, trying to be ops and loyalty and follow the script. I took big losses and had dogs stolen, so it's a definite no. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's happened more often than none. And I say this again, that's why it was unique to see camps, them big camps, that stayed together and were able to do the things that they were able to do. And I just felt like those people had better, better dog. When I say better dogs, they had a lot more of consistency of good working dogs. And when you spread the responsibility, yeah, it's going to happen. Because all you got to do is have a tight ship, and the goddamn ship's supposed to run smooth. And I'm not going to be one to sit here and tell you that it don't work, because I've seen it work. But time takes care of that. Yeah, you're always going to have horror stories in everything you do. No different than out there in for all my street hustlers, y'all know how that game is. Game ain't never been nice. You just got to be able to pick the circle, pick the people that's going to do you, have the same goals and attitude that you have. I think the loyalty part, the honor, all that, the integrity, just being a good person to the people you're working with, coming up with a common goal and working together to get it done. That's, to me, is what makes any corporation, any company, any partnership, stronger. Because, ain't no one man gonna beat no group. Now, these dogs is a little different because, sometimes it just gets down to the dog. But, because of the size of our camp, yeah, we've done 2-3 dogs at a time, which I know we wouldn't have been able to do that if it don't be for the people and the responsibility of that came with them having to do their part. A lot of camps were able to do that. I think Deep South was a pretty big camp that had that ability. Yeah, things went wrong at times, but in whole, prior to their troubles, that was a good organized camp. And they stayed busy due to the size, the amount of dogs, and their ability to stay together for a long period of time. I think I got my boy Mo in the house. Now, you know how he go. Mo, he always gonna have something different feeling about the situation, because we knew so many people who were solo who still had great dogs. But hey, don't forget to hit that like button if you haven't already done so. Kennels on you.
Hey, give me a quick thumbs up, y'all. Make sure I'm sounding okay. All right, y'all. Making it fit. 12/7/82. You're right, man. STP was a good camp. Rebel Kennels had a good camp. See, RC and the So-So Boys, good camp. Super Kennels, good camp. Colored Brothers, good camp. Undertaker, yep, good camp. Untouchables, good camp. I don't know. Undertaker, he was probably solo, but he carried a pretty good backing though. Me, some camps, like True Colors when they first started off, they was a pretty good camp of guys, but they had their own dogs. See, when you're in a camp and y'all have your own dogs, I think that's a hard thing to deal with at times because of opinions. I want everybody. If I'm in a camp and I got guys that's got their own dogs, and we are as a whole, like I think BBK had a good camp. Boot camp had a good camp. But when you have your own dogs, see, that's where the problem comes in at. Because sometimes there'll be a disagreement on the dogs being used. Some might think the dog is a good dog. Some might think he's just an average dog. Some might think he's not putting their money in. Now, what if we get to a match and I ain't in agreement with them taking that dog out because maybe I don't like the dog? You think they're supposed to get mad at me if I don't want to put in on the bet? Is that not being a camp member who is bad or good? Which one would you call him? Would you get pissy at me because I don't want to bet with y'all tonight? Because I don't like the shit y'all bringing out? And then what happens if he lose? Are they going to be willing to let me go ahead and say, I told y'all? Y'all know what I'm saying? That's a good one. That's a good one. So, yeah. No, I think it's a good question to ask. But hey, the poll says is running a Appt ET camp program easier than running a solo program? 73% said no. 27% said yes. Well, I'm going to tend to go with the 73% on the no, because majority of us who's saying no probably know guys that know that, they got a yard, y'all got a yard, y'all do dogs together, but y'all just don't want to come a combine or a single camp, maybe because of the internal issues that you may have, I think camps are used to, just go along with the betting part of it. You know what I mean? A working camp is a camp that actually get in there and get to work, not just that one particular camp with the dog. I got kennel partners. We all part of the same team, but why am I the only one doing the dogs? Well, how about Vietnam? Vietnam, they had dogs, different, all of them had their own dogs, but if they did come to agreement, I know Bones would be the one that would put them in shape, though. And it seemed to work out pretty good for them because they won a lot of matches, I think Bones was a key factor in there because Bones was a good conditioner. And they were very definitely not a easy kennel to win over. So I don't know. It's just a grading scale when you got guys. And then at some point in time, when it comes to litters of puppies, how y'all gonna do this? Well, you got a camp. What y'all gonna do? Who gonna argue? Are y'all gonna agree that, look, I made the breed, but I got 3 other partners on there with their yard. Are they gonna be wanting some of these puppies or be expecting me to throw them all some puppies over there to raise? And what about those? What if I took the whole lamb litter and gave them to one of my KPs? Would I be able to go over there a year later and grab a few of them and check them out or bring them back home? Now, those are all the little issues that goes on in these, what they call, combines or just the camp itself, But, those kind of things do happen. You got to really be in with your crew. And usually I'll say a camp, I would say camp, everybody have a dog on the yard. Preferably we get together and we put all the dogs on one yard. I don't think it's much of a camp when you got some over there, some over here, some over there. And then, it's supposed to be a camp thing, but when it comes down to the breakdown of certain dogs, how good is the camp? You know what I mean? I'm running a camp with you. Should be able to go over there and grab the best dog and take it home and get it ready for the show coming up. Or is somebody over there gonna be like, nah, man, I'm gonna do it this time. I'm gonna do it this time. You know what I'm saying? There's just so many other things that goes along with, coming together and putting a camp together. Camping combine. Combine is just a combination of several kennels coming together under one flag, And I think that really has everything to do with the magic part of it. Combines, when they come together, they don't, they necessarily still carry their own kennel, which is their own yards, but when they come together to match the dogs, they would be falling up under the combine. I mean, there's a combination of different kennels that have combined together only for the purpose of getting the work done. So other than that, you gotta have decisions when you run in a camp. When you solo, all decisions based on one person. If it come a mistake, ain't but one person at fault. In a camp, one person could have a mistake, and next thing you know it, you got 5 guys in the camp. 3 of them say, "Hey," along with the number 4 man, you messed up. But 2 of the guys may say, "Well, it wasn't no big deal." You know what I mean? That could cause a rip in the foundation of a camp. It's just so many other factors when it comes to camps. I just don't see where you have 3 different yards, 3 different guys running those dogs, and then like Super Kennels was theirs pretty good. They had their own dogs. When they came together, they came together. But again, these was seasoned dog men. Now, when you start talking about True Colors with Tony and Big Ralph and Armin and Suburban like Paul, there's already a chemistry. If you knew the guy like I knew him, there's already a chemistry right there that you could tell that it probably wouldn't work because they was just certain personalities and the way certain people were. You don't even have to ask why did they split up, especially a person like the guys that actually knew the camp himself, the individuals in the camp. But solo, they was all bad as hell. They didn't really need to be in no one camp because they did great without, period. When they went solo, they did just as good, if not better, when they were solo. Maybe be less headaches, less arguing. Maybe you can keep a friend better if you keep him outside your camp and just let him, be a part of the establishment, but not part of the camp. Just imagine if I had a partner, you know what I'm saying, and we couldn't decide, then what is the conclusion? What if we all in there don't come to an agreement on how we're gonna condition the dog? My man Johnny Rocket says solo is not a democracy. I mean, even in the camp thing, it's not really a democracy either. Huh? But you gotta leave from Tony Scott. Thanks for the super shot sticker, man. Yeah, big shout out, fam. There you go, producing the show from the bench, man. I tell you, don't do it. Don't do it. Well, because you clicked it up and put it up there. I mean, you came over, clicked it up, put it on the screen. I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody watching saw it. I was just going to catch on Johnny Rocket. Honestly, I would have really been expecting you to say something. I mean, you did put it up there, on my bus. Okay, guys. See, that's what happens. We get through all. But yeah, is a camp there? In a camp, there's different opinions, and you're right. And you have to be. It has to be it's just so much that has to be. Now, what if we was all working off of 1 yard? See, that would be a big difference if we was all working off of 1 yard. All the dogs is on 1 yard now, and we all are involved. Like, if we all on 1 yard, does that mean every morning we all gonna hook up and take care of the dogs? Or do we have one of those guys that's in there doing it on their own, and the other guys just show up when it's time to either roll a dog or match one? We only a kennel when it comes down to match time. Other than that, the person feeding the dog, he's still carrying the kennel name. You know what I'm saying? The dogs are still part of the kennel. But what about the guy who's putting all the work in prior to the matching dogs? That I can see become a headache. Because we're going to all be on the same team, then we should all be out here taking care of these damn dogs. Or we have the responsibility of I take care of the dogs and y'all take care of the vet. Old fella said, did Dog Man TV delete their channel? Why you say that, old fella? He ain't talking about J-Bo and them, is he? You talking about J-Bo and them, old fella? And why you say that? I'm just asking. Salute, my friend. I was just asking. Are you saying they did? They ain't on there. You couldn't find them. Oh, it's not up there. Wow. Dang, all you guys be out there running around, y'all, and I know y'all be on J-Bo stuff. But what's going on, fellas? I know that. Come on, help me an old fella out. Now I'm asking like old fella. You know what I'm saying? I'm with old fella now.
Want to give a big shout out to my man Shreveport Mike in the house. I see you, fam.
I see y'all boy just popped up. What was his name?
Big shout out to my man DB3. Ben. I see you, fam.
Ben. Yeah, I know I done seen kennels like my peoples, Gangville, they had several different kennel names, or they have several different kennel names. And then you look at Evolution, they have several different kennel names, Chico Lopez had several different kennel names. Well, Chico, his purpose was a little different than everybody else's. I think they all had that purpose over there in Texas. But I know GVL, they just they have a lot of changes in and out. Different changes bring different names. Can't keep going by the same kennel if you keep changing personnel. Well, y'all boy said, I fell asleep in the chair. What's the topic? Don't worry, man. You'll catch up. You could definitely catch up. We're talking about camps and combines. Is it best to just keep your own yard, keep your own dog, run your own kennel name, or is it good to have several guys come together, have their own yards, and they come together as one, like Super Kennels? They came together. I think Boot Camp, they had their own yards. I know Vietnam had their own yards. but they came together as one. There's not too many of them that I see out there like that. Deep South was one, but but Deep South was a little different too because they may have had a few dogs on different yards, but they had the same yards. When they had their litters, they was like, I would like to be in my kennel. Some of these go over here, some of them go over there, and it ain't nobody's dog, regardless of where they at. It's the kennel's dogs. It's all our dogs. But how many people gonna do that? What if I'm the one with the champion in the end? Or I'm the one with the grand champion? Is there gonna be some funny shit going on? And then again, what if I'm the one with the grand champion? Does that mean that everybody in the camp can come and breed to the grand champion? These are kind of things that happen when you have camps like that. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't they? They should be able to come over and grab dogs if it's all the same camp. See, when you solo, you don't have all those issues to worry about. You don't have all them different personalities. Imagine one sour person in a camp. There's so many things can go wrong if that camp got one bad apple in it. All come up missing, messy shit being talked, you know what I mean? Everybody talking behind everybody back. Those kind of things happen in camps. But I'm like this personally. I got a KP, and he ain't never walked on my yard, and made no demands. And I ain't never walked on his yard and made no demands. But in the long run, I think, because I knew my place in the camp. Yeah, we talked a lot. We had our debates on breedings and things like that, but that's natural. We ain't gonna fall out over it. We get a little debatable now. We get debatable. We get rough on it now because we don't type of guys. But when it comes down to those big decisions, major decisions, hey, it's either we agree or we just ain't gonna do it. Whatever the issue is, we ain't gonna do nothing that we want to agree on and want to disagree on. But at some point, we're gonna have to compromise. If we can't compromise, then it ain't worth us messing with. Now, he don't want to bet a dog that I want to take out and at the camp, then I would respect that. You know what I mean? I shouldn't be expecting him to bet with me then. So I would guess that one night it's gonna just be going hard and mo, or going hard and all the other people in the camp. What if don't nobody in the camp want to bet but me? Do we even still call it a camp? Or do we just call it mo shit? Okay? Especially if I lose, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna be like, see, we told you, you know what I mean? Or what if I win? I can see how y'all is. Y'all ain't want to bet with me. See, I told y'all. See, when you got a camp full of people with different opinions, you ain't nobody gonna. We can't even get nobody to agree on a poll. Okay, we can't get no. We ain't never had 100% poll. So that gives you a greater idea of understanding what it means to have a camp of guys. I would like to know a big camp like that that they all worked out pretty well. When it came down to breed, open studs. Come on. I'm sitting over here with, Deep South. I gotta give it to Deep South too, though. Deep South and Stone City. Stone City had a few different places. They really did have a camp. And when it came down to those champions, Tony might have had one on the yard. Some of the other guys might have had one on the yard. But when it really came down to, the dogs go in public, they all seem to agree to send the dog to Jesse, because I guess Jesse was the guy who did a lot of the puppy selling, who did a lot of the breedings, for opening to the public. But was Jesse really being legit? I mean, how do y'all split up the money? We got a camp like this. Don't you think it should be ran as a business, like a business? If I'm staring out dogs, don't you think everybody needs to get broke off? Is everybody entitled to get broke off? Or what about, the care of the dogs? Is everybody chipping in to feed the dog? And if I'm taking care of the whole yard, I'm doing solo, does that mean the camp is responsible for paying me for taking care of the dogs too? Or just because, we in the camp? No, that's Mo's spot. That's his job. Never know. But these are questions that you got to ask yourself, when you go to thinking about this stuff tonight, and be like, this is why a lot of us is solo. You want to hang out with GHK, just meet me at the box. Because up to that point right there, we can all go into GHK, but y'all know who the president of GHK is now. I mean, regardless of what we talking about, y'all, we still got a CEO, sucking in everybody's opinions. But when it boils down to it, I think the final decision to be put on the actual person who's putting in most of the work. If everybody is equally putting up, then guess what? Everybody should have an equal stance on their opinion. But I'm not going to be up there taking too many opinions if I'm doing all the damn work. You know what I mean? I'm studying the dogs. I'm breeding the dogs. I'm the one taking them back and forth to the airport. I'm the one always doing this. I don't think nobody in the kennel going to have shit to say based on, what my final call would be. I would probably use everybody else as a advisory, but that's about as far as they can go. They could never expect no demands coming from towards me based on because we a camp. Then we're gonna have a camp problem. Y'all boys do a lot of work. Yeah, but you know what? Most camps, most combines, most uh camps like that, they don't really, if they have a yard boy, somebody got to be responsible to pay. Does that mean everybody in the camp have, come together and have a pot there to take care of the dogs, take care of the people who's taking care of the dogs? I mean, when you're doing it like that, you got to have some type of business structure. You got to have some type of business structure. It's not going to work without it. I forgot about the gunners, the young gunners. See, they too young to go through the grown folks shit. Now, they was pretty well tight. No, they did get, people in their crew did get out and work the dogs. Everybody was involved. Guys they wanted to bet, there was a bunch of little guys there that they wanted to bet. They was allowed to get in where they fit in. Me personally, in a camp, I'm doing all the work. I expect 10% of everybody. Box time, I'm taking 10%. And that's not just for the camp, but that's the way the camp should be able to pay me. You just don't become going hard kennels the time of night of the match. Don't and then when we go in, they putting up more money than me. So for that one night, everybody made more money than me. Yet it's my dog, my show. But we a camp. I would think, why would I even have to argue about that? I think everybody in the camp should take 10% of their winnings and pass it down to the Mo, because Mo did all the work. But see, we never had that problem. Not at all. Because those decisions we didn't have to make. We didn't have those different personalities. And that's what those camps create. Yeah, Johnny Rocket says yard man get paid through a different account. Well, I mean, if it was handled as a business, it would be like me and Mike. You know, there's certain things like this, like certain things that we did that we just Mike had a responsibility. You know, I mean, it's almost like this show. You know, I don't do shit but get on this thing. You know, Mike has to set all this stuff up. You know, he really does have to come up with the show because I don't help him at all. He asked me what do you want to talk about. Mom always he already know what I'm gonna say. He been doing this almost going on 3 years, y'all, and I'm still saying the same thing I said from day one. I don't know. Come up with something we'll talk about it. But I don't put that stress on me because that ain't my job. My job is to sit here in the chair, regardless of what it is. Okay, but I don't tell him how to do his job. You know, like remember when the mics was messing up, you know, you just see me, I was getting on him about, hey man, you don't want this your shit, man. Get the damn mics straightened out, man. You know, we had those kind of issues. But these are the kind of things, imagine we had 3 or 4 people in the camp and the mics was messing up. Everybody in the camp gonna be mad at Mike. Mike, this is your part. Here's my part. I'm doing the dog. Dogs is looking skinny. Y'all stinking like shit. And all the guys coming over to see the dogs and be like looking at me like, damn, man, what's going on over here? You know, first thing I'm ready to holler, why y'all, what the hell y'all got to say about it? Y'all ain't over here helping me. See what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And then, you know, they probably leave the yard and we got 3 or 4 people part of the camp. They over there conspiring now. Hey man, I'm not putting no, I can't do that with man. You shot them dogs, look. You know, they won't come together as a full camp and address it and jump in there and help fix it. You know, maybe them kind is the ones that go ah, shoot out a whole secret meeting without me. Give me a new mic, man. Cause I can't help this thing. It keeps going down. I'm not pushing it down. I just do like this right here and it just kind of keep moving down. How you know we'll be going out when I do it? Well, why yours sitting down there? Why can't I use yours? Uh, yeah, we gotta get on our studio, man.
Want to give a big shout out to my man. Wells Pitbull Max Supplements in the house. I see you, fam. What up, greater than? I see you, fam. Hey, y'all don't forget to hit that like button.
Yeah, greater than. I'm with you on that one. Favoritism towards a certain bloodline. I mean, there would be some decision making going on. It would definitely be some decision making going on, and you know, especially when it goes to favoritism. Because when you run the camp, you know, I think everybody should be in agreement with, you know, how about not having a favoritism when it comes to a particular dog? Or a particular line. Let's just go with a line that we can use that's going to work regardless of where the hell come from. Johnny Rocket says the most successful yards that competed in since the 80s had camps made up of relative. Yeah, but then a lot of them don't though. You know, I mean, I think when you got camps full of relatives, them is not different personalities compared to, you know, you had that relative loyalty and respect thing. That's a totally different than, a bunch of guys coming together that ain't got that relationship like that. You know what I mean? Relatives is definitely a different type of relationship when it comes to a camp like that. Based on, you got a couple different guys coming together. You know what I'm saying? And what about the guy that got the dog, don't want to get a dog up? Man, I've been holding on to the dog a year, man. I'm keeping the dog. Man, no, man, it's time for the dog to come over here. Now we got some shit, right? What happened to one of the camps, the dog get off the chain and kill two good dogs? What the camp gonna say about that? Is anybody gonna get up and go over there and fix all the chains and check all the collars? Or are they gonna be like, man, did you check the collar? Did you check his thing? Why? Well, how did he get off? You see what I'm saying? Them the kind of shit that happen when you got camps. If you solo this shit happen, then it's on you to deal with, you to figure it out. So I'm like, I'm explaining my reason for going with the 73% that said hell no. You know what I mean? My man said the Jeep Red Boy dogs were consistent as fuck. Splash Rascal. Well, no, I mean, I wouldn't even say the Jeep Red Boy dog became essential until the early 90s. I would think it was the early 90s. I think, when they start tagging up them Jeep Red Boy dogs, because, Blackjack and Gator and them, they was little, they came down through there, but they was, I mean, hardcore was already using these dogs. So it wasn't hard to make that transition between Jeep and Red Boy, y'all, and Rascal. To me, hardcore Kennels did it better than most, the best ones at it. If you was to ask me, I'm gonna tell you what I saw with the Jeep Red Boy Rascal. Wasn't nobody doing them like hardcore Kennels, And then you got Stone City when they crossed the Yellow Buck into that Miss Nico shit. When they bred up Miss Nico had that Jeep in her. That was a decision, to add the Jeep. It was a lot of us that was sneaking Jeep through there. When we had the Jeep bitch on our yard before we had the Mayday dogs. You know what I'm saying? Triple Jeep. The Jeep is, why would you not if you looking at the registered merit list? See, that was the one thing I liked about me and my KP. One thing that we understood about competition. And maybe because, our love for dogs and my knowledge from training dogs, why would I want to go have a dog to be training that, he ain't producing them aggressive killers? You know what I'm saying? So at some point, if I'm going to be training these dogs, and why we ain't got the best of other dogs that we going to be training? We just can't be snatching some shit off the damn street talking about we could train anything. So you got to have the right shit first. Or ain't nothing going to work. You got to have the right dogs. So that's decisions to be done in that. The right line. We want to run a particular line. We ain't going to be running making no whack ass breedings and shit trying to come up with some new fruit. That ain't going to happen in this camp over here. Everybody always talking about coming up with their own special sauce. Well, I can tell you, we've been through this shit already. Time after time after time. Ain't none of y'all out there put together nothing new. That ain't already been tried and done. Matter of fact, if you pay closer attention, you'll find out why the shit died out, why it was never done as much as it was done like you trying to do it, because it didn't work out. It didn't work, period. You know what I'm saying? So, you can solve a lot of those problems right there in the camp. Because some guys, I know I wouldn't be in agreement with, somebody in the camp trying to have a yard of dogs over there, and he's trying to come up with this new thing and, just doing these crazy ass breedings and untested shit, but he part of the camp. How long is that going to work? How long we going to keep him in the camp? There's so many factors that come along with camps. I think camps is only camps when it comes down to the bet time. And even when it comes down to betting time, I mean, if everybody's jumping on my bandwagon, then guess what? Guess what? Then they're going to have to be passing out that 10%. By the end of the night, it's going to be 10%. My expectations is going to expect the 10%. It shouldn't be, it shouldn't even be expected for anybody to say anything. Get him mad. The twin doing all the work. We gonna all jump on the bandwagon and we all getting paid and we ain't slapping my man down that something. He shouldn't have to open his mouth. I mean, we all supposed to be hanging in there going hard together. Then, then going hard, take care of the going hard shit then. Oh, well, say it louder, twin. I thought I was saying it loud enough, cool. Well, say I've been saying that. Well, but it's the truth, though. That is the truth. How many guys out there you be seeing? Everybody got their own way. Some of that shit don't even be making sense. Some of this shit that I be hearing, I mean, imagine if some of the shit that I be hearing, I was their kennel partner. You know what I mean? I'm already searching Google for a new kennel name. Hey, man, I talked to old Davey yesterday, man. You heard this shit this dude was trying to say, man. He trying to do go this new direction that I ain't trying to take the kennel. You know what I mean? I mean, it ain't sounding right. What if it ain't sounding right to me? Does that mean we need to dissolve the kennel? And you're right. Well, a lot of guys did jump on that. He said most of the guys got on the G Red Boy Rascal train late as hell. Yeah, and I'll tell you the truth. Like I said, I ain't seen nobody play with it better than Hardcore Kennels. Hardcore Kennels, and I mean, and by the way, I would have to say James Pope. I would throw his name up in there under the simple fact of Shirley and his ability to be able to get me the Jeep shit, being able to get me Bosco Jr., little Bosco, when he made that breeding Shirley that created Blackjack's grandmother. Yeah, Pope too and Hardcore. You're right, man. Pope and Hardcore. And look, Blackjack's still around producing shit. Gator and all them dogs, them is definitely the thing. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm sitting up there with rascal dogs long before Blackjack was even thought about. Shirley had 2 litters coming down off of us when we just didn't have a red boy in it. That's the only thing that we was missing, but we had the rascal. We definitely had the rascal. Pope had us set up with some good rascal dogs, and then the ones became the Eli dogs coming out of the Carolinas, the ones that came in there off of Snooty and Molly B and Blood and them dogs was pretty good. And then we had those ratchet dogs, off of Daz. Crybaby and Dusty was pretty good dog. I mean, the dog that Pope always talked about, Joe Red, well, see, Joe Red was the only dog in that litter that didn't get matched. He was the only dog in the litter that did not get matched. Post dog. All the other litter mates, Dusty and Bandit, they were other good dogs in that litter. Dusty went over 2 hours, and so did Bandit. Both lost, but they both went out there. I think the problem with those dogs was, where I think Mike kind of filled in that hardcore Mike. He had that combination that really made it work, and he was able to continue doing that because remember we were just looking at those pedigrees, even in our pedigrees of our those list of champions that I had on the last show. Didn't y'all notice when hardcore and a lot of those champions that had that red boy cross in there? Did y'all notice that he was constantly still doing that chant shit up in there? And that rascal up in there, even with the dogs that we was using, because remember, going hard dogs has a lot of Jeep in them. They got Eli in them, and they got Red Boy. I just like the way hardcore used it. You know what I'm saying? And you can't say it didn't work because look how many times did we look into them champion, that book of champions, there was champions I was putting up the last show and kept on seeing those red boy dogs coming through hardcore. And them champions ended up on them dogs ended up on champion pedigrees. So you got to come to a point to realize that, it was working. The same dog when we took Maytu and bred Maytu and the litter mate to the very dog that we went through 2017 minutes with, that same dog, litter mate's sister, produced a champion and a grand champion. And that was a Jeep Rascal Red Boy dog. I just think they game and they rough. I just think Mayday and them produce rougher and better dogs. That's what the factor was. Why? Because they had yellow. Why did Mike stand out? Because they had yellow. You don't see Rascal up there in them top 5 dogs. You don't see him there. You can't deny the fact that it was, hardcore using yellow. You know what I'm saying? But then you got Jeep, all the little key pieces of the puzzle right there, but you don't see not one Red Boy Rascal dog up there on that list. Okay? Pay attention to that. The most of the kennels that I'm talking about is covering that top 5 of them males and them bitches. When we talking about when we're going to breaking them kennels down, you know what you're going to see. You're going to see them fast lane kennels, and you're going to see how they was using it. And if they up there for a reason. Anything under that, it's a plus. But why are we still looking at these same top 5 dogs all these years later when everybody else is falling to the wayside? You know why? Because we are not respecting them top 5 dogs enough. That's why y'all can't get them off the top 5. Because as long as they staying up there, the combination and how they're being used, he's going to keep them there. It's going to keep them there. The mechanic dogs like the ones in my handle is Kobe Honey Bunch Killer. Well, like I said, I had the mechanic. I had a bitch right off of, I'm going to show you the dog I had. I'm going to pull a pedigree up. Like, I might not have her name up there, but I know how the dog was bred. She was off a champion mechanic and a bitch named Jackal. So I'm going to pull up mechanic shit and see if we can find Jackal. Okay. Hold on, guys. Give me a minute here. Let me see if I can find him. That's another one mechanic pitched up. Let me take the sibs. Yeah, let me see. Yeah. Well, yeah, we got 2 pages. She might be on there. She go right there. Jacko. I am. I might go down through here. Might catch mine down here. GHK, Punisher 2, no. I used to have her on mine. Mm-hmm. No, on these here? Remember, she never made it there. But I go back to the other Jacko. I seen that later. All right, guys, I'm good. Yeah, she on page 1. Here's a litter mate. This is definitely a litter mate right here. And let me go ahead and share this. Oh, my fault. Okay, this dog right here is a litter mate to the dog that I had. This is the dog, the little female. I call her the mechanic. This is how she was bred, off a mechanic and Jackal. Yeah, I bought that bitch on my yard. That bitch was gonna get bred to everything. You hear me? And she was a little hot mama. I would have thought she would have got loose and killed baby. I'm mad as hell I came out there and seen that dog dead. Then look at the pedigree. With all the dogs I had on my yard, why do you think I went out and bought her? You know what I'm saying? I'm sticking to the program. I'm literally trying to sneak in there. I'm trying to sneak in there and do some Big Mike shit. I got Pretty Mama on the yard. I got Mayday crossed in the yard. I got Yellow crossed in the yard. I got Twisted, Luke Kane, Stone City in the yard. And we all got Jeep in them. So everybody running Jeep. Red Boy with that Patrick, I was getting ready to run crazy with that bitch. But I was going to win with her first. My intention was to go ahead and make her a winner. I didn't buy her for breeding purposes. I bought her to go out there and win. And shit. She was the one loose and got knocked off by Baby. You know, maybe not might have been a good idea if I was to match her, but you know, knowing that she lost like she did, spending the night with Baby, maybe she wasn't as good as I thought she was. You know, maybe I think she was just too young to be running her ass over there messing with Baby. Because Baby gonna test that gameness. As long as she wanted to keep running in there with Baby, she was gonna run into some gameness. Yeah, but that's what color she was. She was a buckskin dog. Now, why'd you click off her? No, we're messing with shit. It's got your whole screen. No, that ain't her. No, but I was saying, but this is how she was bred. Exactly like that. So yeah, I mean, but you gotta also think now when we had when we crossed that that bruiser stuff into the hooker red, it's almost the same thing. You know, the hooker red dog had a lot of the red boy cross, but then, you know, they had a touch of the buck. Yeah, I was gonna breed her the Roger Ramjet. I was gonna breed that stuff off of Pretty Mama back into that shit. Remember, I had Beetlejuice dogs on the yard. Imagine that being crossed into the Beetlejuice dogs. You know, remember Roger Ramjet and Pharaoh, those were Beetlejuice dogs. Crossed with Stone City Mayday. Added to some goddamn this got over the mechanic, man. I know I was on to something. Yeah, man. Yeah, y'all see that 2025? Y'all couldn't get nothing that pretty on your yard no more. Y'all it ain't out there like that no more. You know, y'all still looking for that shit in your fourth generation. But one thing for damn sure, like Mike just said, we still messing with that Bailey's Bingo stuff. That St. Benedict Bailey, shit, we ride that shit like the bus tires on the bus. We ride that. Cause that Bailey's Bingo, man, like that St. Benedict Bailey, man, that's that Bailey's Bingo, man. He put another good dog out there. You know, it's hard to find a good red boy dog that can produce. Y'all say Holland Worth produced some decent dogs. I say he produced some decent dogs. But ain't too many dogs, you know, was consistent as you find as Bailey's Bingo was with those red boy dogs. Not too many of them. Outside of Red Boy himself. Red Boy himself did better than Bailey's Bingo in many terms. No, is your screen doing that? Or okay. Yeah, you know what I mean? But yeah, man, it was a sad day, man. Yeah, she was a buckskin black-nosed dog. I got a picture of her. And she wasn't even old enough to be running her ass over there thinking that she was going to run into baby any damn way. She was smart enough to not run over there by Brat, though. That was for damn sure. She ran right across from the dog that was across from her. But she didn't go over there and run across over there and jump on the dog that was next to her. Because she didn't go nowhere near Brat. But yeah, man, those are just some of the things that I'm speaking on now. And we had one that was Gator bred to a daughter off the Bruiser Hooker Red breed. Let me go see how I pull that one up. Pull up Champion Gator. And he was a people biter.
Big shout out to Talk of the City. Kennels in the house. What up, fam?
There's old Gator.
Big shout out to Oat Man. I see you, fam.
You know, we had one right off of Gator. He was right off of Gator. Let me see if we got that breeding up in here. It was Gator bred to a daughter off of Hooker Red and Bruiser. I'm trying to remember the name. But you know, Gator got a lot of damn dogs he was bred to, y'all. Y'all know we ain't go down here looking. Okay, there it is. Gator bred to Hooker Red. We had one of these right there. We had one of them. People biter. Look, my man, my boy, you know, he used to be, he was on my yard for a while. Then he came and picked him up and took him back home with him. And his wife had a seizure in the laundry room, and he had the dog in the laundry room where his wife was. And his wife had a seizure, and while she was having a seizure, the damn dog attacked her. But being I could train dogs, he didn't scare me, so I was able to take him home with me. Everybody else, you had to get to know him and know how to deal with him for him to respect you. But everybody else he didn't have no respect for. So, he was a people biter. Where did it come from? I can't tell you. Unless them gator dogs was, had a tendency of biting people. I mean, he was definitely a people biter. But I had one of these on the yard and didn't ever get a chance to breed him. He kept getting off the chain after he went back up there, already bit up the wife. You know what I mean? Kept getting off the chain and running over there in the neighbor's yard, killing off their animals. And then one day the man got tired of the damn dog and shot and killed him. I never did get the breeding that I was going to make with him because I was going to breed this dog to baby. And never did get a chance to match him. And he was definitely a good one. He was definitely a bulldog. Yeah, but we definitely had one of these on the yard. The litter mate to this dog. And imagine if we could have made that cross with him and the mechanic. That would have been a hell of a breeding. Breeds that we never got a chance to make because of things that happened. The life of a dog, man. All wasted money, though. Things like that, fellas. Now I can just go back to it like that, but stop sharing mic, pop back up and thing. Okay. But see, them was good breedings. Yeah, that's how Twin was breeding shit. Yeah, I was doing that. KP was gone. I was picking up the shit and running with what I could run with. Oh, Boomer, look, KP made a hell of a breeding too. I'm gonna see if I can find that one. I forgot what her name was. Damn, I forget what her name was, but maybe I can go in there and find it. But we had some dogs right off of Boomer. He had a female right off of Boomer, and he bred into a stone into that same stuff to produce carnivore and brick. No, it wasn't lumpy. Damn, I forgot what that little female's name was. But yeah, she was a nice one. We made a good breeding off of that too, though. Boomer is the top all-wim dog line bred off of Bingo. Yeah, Boomer play a big part in the Cunningham dogs that we see in today's dog. Those Cunningham dogs, I'm gonna have to tell y'all, to me, the baddest dog out of all that shit was Body Snatcher's Ruckus. That's who I think the best Cunningham dog was. Okay. Yeah, I'm getting good. We got me. To me, this right here was probably one of the baddest. To me, was the baddest. Far when it comes down to the Cunningham dogs, this dog right here, he was a bad dog, and he was a producer. Yeah. You know what I mean? When it comes down to the Cunningham now, when it comes down to Tab would be to me the best red boy Jeep dog out there. Tab would be the best red boy Jeep cross to me. Tab was that. He definitely got that title. But when it comes down to a match dog and being a producer, when it comes to them Cunninghams, dogs, this is the dog right here. This dog had a little bit of the old stuff and the old, he had the old stuff and the Katie Mall stuff. That Medellin, see that Medellin's Outlaw? That North Carolina Rose dog, yeah. That's that old other side of that red boy stuff. This stuff right here. No, what they famous, just as famous as the Katie Marlowe dogs. In a sense, yeah. It's just that when you take and look at the red boy dogs that went off into the yellow, then you got the red boy dogs that went off into the Jeep. You know, when you start taking those dogs and taking the red boy part of them and doing what they did with red boy, you know, it was undeniable that the Medellin dogs would not catch up to that because they were not being used as much as those Katie Marlowe dogs were. But best believe that North Carolina Rose dog crossed into them Cunningham dogs. Well, I'm gonna tell you something, mate. Them was some hellified dogs. Red man, see that red man? See how they took that Medellin stuff and then crossed it right back in? See, that's a line bred line of dogs right there. Line bred. Showing you that it worked. You know what I mean? Ain't nobody in there trying to make no new pudding. You stick to the old pudding and keep it the way it is. The homework was done years ago. Follow the trend. See, you ain't seen nobody up here trying to make any new cheese with this shit here. We already know Red Boy and Jeep would work. And all they did is just put Weirdo there. You could have put Smiley there and probably got even better dogs. You know what I'm saying? But that's a good Red Boy Jeep Rascal cross. I wouldn't even call it Rascal. I would call it Jeep Red Boy personally. I don't see Rascal in there nowhere. But I know he. But this was a good cross, man. And I'm telling you, he was a bad dog. And he produced very well. I mean, he produced dogs that would smash your ass like he could. See, I think it was that champion Carmen Brown was the one they took down there in the. I know it wasn't Slim Shady. I think it was Carmen Brown that they took down there and went into boot camp. You know, told him, hey, we're gonna bring her down there and we'll do it right there at her dog house. You know, that boot camp ain't gonna turn nothing down like that. You bring that bitch down here, they got it. You know, you never know until you take it out there. You know, ain't nobody gonna be calling out like somebody scared. You man willing to come, let him come. But yeah, he bought a bulldog, all right. He definitely bought one. It probably went like 30-some minutes, and that's all it took. But she was every bit that. Yep, big champion to mate champion. Yep, that's her. That's her. But look what you see down there at the bottom, hardcore. You see what I'm saying? Now you see the rascal. It's some kind of breedings right there, man. And I mean, this is not no new makeup of a line of dogs. They playing within a certain makeup of these dogs, man. And if you notice, most of the time when we see these type of good-looking dogs and good-bred dogs, it's always a known fact that the kennels that uses their shit, not breed their shit to sell it, but use their shit to win with it, usually the one that's producing these champions. We see it enough where it shouldn't even be an argument. You know what I'm saying, y'all? You know, like you can look at these dogs here, and then you go pull up let me show you another cross like that.
Big shout out to my man Trevor Leahy in the house. What up, fam? My man Trevor said Tab was bred more, but his brother Trap was the best producer. Yes, sir.
Here's another cross almost like that. Look at this one. This is Stone City's champion, Miss Nico. There go another one. See that? So there's not no secret. Definitely not a secret. What you see work. You know, these are things that I'm pointing out, especially to guys that like breeding. Follow the professionals.
Sure.
Follow the professionals. You know what I'm saying? You already know her offspring. You see the name, you find them right on in there with everybody else. You go on Hollow Bar. They go Sarah Kell. They go Little Pig. You know, a lot of these dogs, really, a lot of these dogs produce winners. She was a good producer. The dog here was a good producer. We already know about Low Bob. This dog right here was a good producer. I can go down to every one of these dogs and put out dogs that they every one of them produced a winner. That's Low Bob. That's the Mayday Stone City cross. Sarah Kell. I know she got a couple pages. Hold on, let me just, yeah, she got 2 pages. Cool. And that one right there, I know about Champion Ramel. I don't even gonna tell you about no Ramel Buck Jr. You know, see that right there? I never heard about Ramel Buck Jr. I don't think Sarah Kell stayed on the yard that long for all that to be happening because she spent a lot of time on my yard. And at the time that I had her, you know, her last literally coming down from Evolution before they sent her to me was Ramel Buck.
She made 2 bread or somebody. Also made
Hey.
Made 2 bread to Austin.
Yeah, that was a little female. Yeah, that was a little male. Yeah, that was the only. Remember I told you I never had another. I had one little pup. And I took that pup and put him right along in there with the baby Mayday litter. And the guy bought it. Never never heard from the puppy again. Yes, I did bring May 2 to her. And went out there one day and she had a puppy. That was him right there. The only puppy in the litter. Yeah, I was. Remember, he was the first Austin Mayday. You remember? But yeah, all these circle, all these puppies coming off of Yellow Butt Miss Nico. I mean, you gonna find little pig. You know that we know him. Okay, they all did it. Let me see. Here's one. This is the one I had to let my sister to. The one that died from the grapefruit. She reduced him. Oh yeah, we got some good dogs out of that too. And then all we were doing again. That's the puppies that they took. With the Gestego brick. Gideon. He was one of them that they took to. But look how they bred. This is the little female that you see. I don't even see her up there. Like, you know, I was going to pull her up. You know what I'm talking about. The only one made it. Nico Storm. There she go. There she go. The only one. The only one that didn't get taken and put down. But look how they bred. These were young dogs. That long shovel boy right there, he was bad as hell though. This one right here had, he was definitely going to be one. That whole litter was shit, y'all. I'm just keeping it real with y'all. Any one of these puppies was the shit. But 2007, remember they took him in 2008. April 2008. That's going to be a whole new line of dogs we was coming up with. That was my comeback. They go carnivore. She ended up being a one-time winner herself. See, but we're going look at the gator stuff down there. That was red gator. Yeah, we was throwing them together, y'all. This y'all little mate brother. I'm going back over to them dogs where we started. Yeah, and I remember I started over here with Miss Nico. I said that she produced several dogs that was producing winners. It's one of them is yellow buck Miss Nico breeding. Down there, every one of these dogs produced a winner. That's Black Ice right there. They all was producers. I mean, you could breed into anything and it was working. You know what I say? You give me some buck, you see all the right shit in there. They go Jeep, they go buck, and they go yellow. You can't go wrong. And we still talking about cold bitches. Baby was cold. All these bitches was cold. Yeah, she was a good one too. She was a good one. Keep in mind, y'all, Baby is a result of that same kind of breeding. They go Jesse Rod, 357. Baby and Jesse Rod were litter mates. Yep. Baby. Yep, Baby Red. Yep. I did. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean Baby, y'all. My fault. There go my girl Wonder. And we had just remember we had a breeding with her and Yellow Day and didn't get nothing. I was going to take her and breed her to Buck Rogers. But Buck Rogers was out on the circuit at the time that we bred a Yellow Day. And the Yellow Day got stolen like 4 days after we bred her. But yeah, guys, if we was over to the breeds that we made, didn't take. Y'all see some badass breedings. They just didn't take. Well, and you know, I say again, I put a lot of that on, you know, not understanding using roids, but not knowing how to come down off the roids. Messed up some good dogs. But again, I ain't mad because I ain't give a damn. I'm matching dog. I can get me some puppy, I get them. I was not no fan of being pressed Have a damn litter. Mad when I didn't get them though. Remember, this is the same dog we were talking about earlier. That Diablo dog, yeah, he was a good one. Big old storm. Champion versus champion went down. Yeah, she did lose to Julie the Great. But y'all see what I'm doing here, right? It was another good one. This dog right here was a good one too. Him? Oh, he was not a show dog, trust me.
He said he was a champion in ABB.
Mm-hmm. And Lil D and Prodigy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. But you know, that's just one of the mind that if you notice when everybody stayed into a format. You know, if you know the A1 of them dogs that I pulled up, there was still a format that they all looked familiar. He said, check your sound. What's up with the sound, fam? Okay, I misunderstood. I'm just going through some of these notes here, y'all. Hold on.
Big shout out to my man Don Willie in the house. What up, fam? Big shout out to Get There. I see you, fam. Yeah, Big Bradford. What up, fam?
My man said that champion Goon dog had a lot of blood in him. Yeah, he did. You're right. Stormer Norman was probably one of the first guys. I mean, far as of the dark colored people, you know, that was able to get a dog off of Katie Marlowe. The way he used to say it, he taught his way to her yard and got the Whistler from her, and then he bred her. She let her breed back into it, and he came up with that champion Whistler Junior dog. But talking to him, she thought he was a white guy till he got to her house. And that's how he ended up with Whistler. because she really thought he was a white guy, and that's what got him to the house. Once he got there, he's a good guy when you meet him, guys. You would never think he's an undercover crackhead dog thief, but he definitely was a good guy if you knew him. He just had a problem.
Big shout out to my man, Mr. Roderick Bradford. I see you, fam.
Talk at the city, Kennels. What's up, man? I see you, fam. Okay, y'all, I'm just diving in. I just went in there, I'm finishing it out. I would throw up Goon. I'm gonna see if I can find him before I close it up. All right, I'm gonna see if I can find Grand Champion Goon. I hate putting somebody saying something, and then we don't put the pedigree up. I'm one of them ones that I'll pull it up for you guys. Yep. Here I come, guys. Here I come. Here we go. That's Goon. 36, 39. Look how he bred, though. Nice breed. They go one of them devil butt nigga puff down there. They go all awesome buck. I mean, the Stone City dog, I'm telling you, man, the key to the Stone City dog, guys, and you got to look at that Miss Luca with that, let me just click on it right quick. See what I'm saying? You're going to find him in there. You're going to find that heavy red boy in there. And remember, I showed you that, and a lot of our champions that was being crossed into Maytoo by Gameville and them, you're going to see a lot of that stuff. You're going to see that chance start popping up. Where we was real cool with Big Mike. I believe in Big Mike. I still believe in his shit. But like I was saying, the dog that you see us pulling up, we could be pulling up anybody's shit, but these breedings is made by professionals, guys. These weren't just breeding dogs to sell dogs. You know what I'm saying? You can tell a dog man breed. You're gonna always see a whole lot of color than a whole lot of black. Give y'all a chance to look at it before I shut it down, because I can't say no more than what I said. Okay. Get me back. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, fellas. Hey, what's up, Mr. Bradford? I see it. Always great to hear from you guys. I know. I'm glad to see you come through there, fam. I like pointing that stuff up, and I like to make that opinion and comment that I made earlier about you know, I bring a lot of champions up on this show. I've always bought a lot of champions. You know, you hardly ever hear me talk about curs and the dogs that don't make it, because what relevant would it be to talk about? But I can tell y'all this to make y'all feel at ease, because everything we bred didn't come out always great. There was more trash in these breedings, guys, than it was ever greatness. No, and I can guarantee you can bring Stone City, Hardcore, Victor, anybody in this game who matched a lot of good dogs will tell you there was more trash. What y'all see is the good shit. We don't talk about the shit that didn't make it because it ain't no use to talking about it. But I'll tell you the underline of that, there was a lot more trash, y'all, than it is good shit. That's just how it is in the game. That's just part of the game. You know, that is nothing to even be making an argument about, because that goes for everybody, from Kenny Allen to STP to Ron Newman to Ronnie Boyle, anybody name you want to throw out there. You ain't going to have it like you think. Everybody don't have a yard full of killers. Okay? If you got a yard full of killers, go back there and check the trash. I guarantee there's buckets of the motherfuckers back there in the back. You know what I'm saying? A whole lot of them made it to the trash can, because it just don't work like that. If it was made, it was supposed to be that easy, everybody be walking around here with champions and grand champions. To get them things to going, it ain't that easy. Just be fortunate for those who was fortunate to be able to make those achievements, man. You know, hats off. You know? Got a whole lot of talking about it, but that being about it is a whole different game. It's a totally different game compared to the talk about. See, when you're talking about it, this is where all the, you know, the cur talking come in. You know, you got a lot of curs on the yard. You know, nobody want to talk about them. Trent, can you name some of the dogs that quit on your yard? Hell no. Well, how could I remember them? You know what I'm saying? What's the purpose of even trying to remember them? Okay, what is it, the purpose of even talking about them? I can tell you I have more dogs that, you know, that didn't make it than I had great dogs. And I'm pretty sure that Stone City, Victor, Hardcore, STP, I can name them all. Pat Patrick, Floyd Boudreaux, Earl Tudor, all of them. Kobe, ain't nobody yard 100%. We only see the good shit because nobody talks about the raggedy shit. Okay? Now, for all you damn internet breeders now, let me tell you something. This is the kind of conversation you don't want me to talk about. You know what I mean? Because we was testing our shit. So because of how good that breeding was, it didn't guarantee a shit. Remember that. So why all you people out here buying these internet breeding dogs, I'm going to tell you again, you're buying more trash than you're buying good, because it's not being handled and worked as the old kennels was working their lines and their breeding. Even still, they still had trash. And I'm going to leave it right there and turn back over the mic. Hey, thanks for y'all hearing me out here. You know what I mean? Again, I'm going to have to tell you guys, I am 100% into that 73, probably higher than that, you know, at the pole. Oh, man, it changed. Is running an Apbt camp program easier than running a solo program? We moved up to 31% said yes. It moved up. 31% said yes. 69% said no. Well, that's how the 67 breeders, votes, though. Not a lot of votes, but it counts to give you an idea where everybody at. you know. But hey, that I think that would be I'm in agreement with the 69%. I can even understand the 31%. You know, I think the 31%, it helps out when we talking about matching dogs. But what's the kennel like? Well, I had to say Dixieline. Dixieline was a combination. It was a combine. It was a combination of a couple kennels, but they was only their major purpose was for matching purposes. They all came together for matching purposes. You know what I mean? Like we did with the BLB. Matching purposes. Everybody come together and we gonna beat this. For the purpose of competition. You know that is not the same thing as everybody has a responsibility. You know, and as a whole, y'all are a unit. You know, those kind of things is very hard to maintain. And today's world probably worse than it would be in our world back then, because there's really very little loyalty in between the competition of what goes on the internet compared to what goes on, you know, off the internet. A lot of stuff that goes on off the internet, you guys will never hear and see because those people are private. So a lot of the things that we hear going out here in today's world and today's game is all internet based. And in that base, you're going to always have, misinformation, egos, personalities. Nobody fact checks shit because it's really hard to fact check anything these days because it's the person who's telling the story. If they don't come with receipts, then there's no way you're going to fact check them. Then you're just listening to somebody telling a story that can't get fact checked. And if you can believe it without getting it fact checked, then it must be because you know the person very well or you're a witness to some of this shit. You need to step up there and be a part of that conversation with him, because a lot of us to hear that shit, we don't believe the shit. These days you gotta have receipts. We don't need to hear all this talking. We need to, like I show y'all our shit, you need to press that on everybody. That should be a common thing out here in this internet world so y'all can start separating, can't even call it from the real to the real to the fake because all this shit is fake. Especially when we start talking about in this competitive world of game dogs, out here in this open space of internet, all this shit should be fictional. I mean, what fool would want to be anything other than fictional out here exposed to the internet? Think about it. Let's talk about it later. I'm out of here. Thanks for everybody listening to me. Mike, it's your show now. Don't forget, guys.
Hold on. Took the mic back on.
Don't forget, guys. Don't forget the email at the bottom of the page right there. You got the Cash App. Thanks for you guys. Put the super chats out there. Keep us motivated. As long as you're keeping me motivated, I'll keep showing up. I start losing my motivation, I stop showing up. So, cause I have said a lot, and the way the system is set up now, I can't bring up journals on one. I can't show y'all the match reports. He has to do too much work to put that system together. Hopefully he can, because a lot of the books and a lot of the stories that I want to show you, I can't because the system's not set up to do that. So, I'm running out of shit to tell y'all. I'm running out of shit to talk about. You know what I mean? So, just giving y'all a heads up. We got a lot of those books out there that we can go over. But, right now, you got to still be getting in there and getting involved. You know what I mean? So, y'all keep us motivated. You can keep us here. Keep participating. We'll keep putting forth the effort.
Big shout out to Small Time. I see you, fam. Small Time said, Mr. Chan, solo with the small yard. Yeah, it's a whole lot of them had them small yards.
Yeah, Mr. Chan wasn't no major, he was a good dog, man, but he wasn't that major now.
Let's see here. All right, fellas. Wasn't trying to let Mo go into no 12 and 1 and 2 o'clock, because you know how he get when he gets started. Hey, look here, fellas. Appreciate everybody for showing up tonight. I mean, come on now. I would think it's common sense a little bit that, when it comes down to the partnerships, the combines, yeah, they were important to a lot of us because we were able to get a lot done. I guess the bullshit is going to be wherever, when it comes to dealing with people, you're always going to find yourself dealing with bullshit. But just to look at it, a couple and speak on a few of the ones that teamed up, had those partnerships, ran those combines, they were really pretty successful. And you can just basically base it off the amount of champions and grand champions and one-time and two-time winners that they were able to be able, it was just a more consistent basis when you're working with a team. Even though it is hard to do, but I guess back in the day, that's where the horror stories come from, because not everybody was successful at doing it. But for the ones who were, history speaks for itself. So I thought that was something that we could just drop out there because, for me, I'm always stuck. I stick to trying to see the community come together, moving into the future, because together there's so many things as a community you can change. I mean, change the whole outlook of how people look at these dogs, because I think that's important. I think it's very important, regardless of what the community is doing. I think it's just important that you come together and you just make things happen. Doing solo shit don't move no mountains, man. Even a boxer gotta have somebody who can take their career and be a handler to make a good boxer worthy of even talking about. It takes a group of people, a band. It takes a group of people.
Especially today's internet world, it should be easy for them to do, because
I think with the way things are in the world today, as far as these American Pit Bull Terriers, I would think that it would be easier to have big confirmation shows. I think that part is so important to the progression of how the public look at these dogs, because not every story should be considered a bad story, but the dogs are still being bred and still being sold. So remember, we only talk about the past, and we look forward to seeing what the future part looks like. But not trying to be here all night doing this. So y'all help me out, because we did show up to show out. Big shout out to everybody who came in, supported us. Y'all show me some love right quick. This is for you guys tonight. Give yourself some thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Muscles, muscles, muscles. Now give your damn self some roses, roses. You need them damn roses. That's a big shout out to everybody out there on the back street and any and everybody who participated in the poll. Remember, the poll was not a wrong or right answer. It just gives us an idea to see where everybody's head's at. It's almost like a temperature check because these things are important, at least moving forward, because again, this community was not created, based on what one individual does. It would be nice if we, back in the day, if we could climb in the box and nobody over in the corner and, automatically became a champion or a grand champion. We always needed somebody else. That's how competition works. And this competition does not necessarily have to be the way we did things in the past. And I just think it's important to come together and make things happen. And to be able to do that, regardless of whatever it is, you're going to have some honor, some integrity, and some loyalty. And just love the game for what it is, regardless of what it has to offer. You got to love it to be successful at it. Regardless of what people think or say, we loved our dogs. Most everybody that I've ever known love their dogs. So I bring that to the table simply because partnerships are hard. You hear all these horror stories, but they're not impossible. It's not impossible. It's almost like saying that the integrity part of the game is shit. And I'm just never been a believer in that. Yeah, of course you're going to have bad apples. But just through our experience, I've known enough good partners, good combines that have worked out great. And just based on the success and the consistency of their works speaks highly to their friendship, their partnership, their business relationship, being able to get things done. And we can't get away from that as a community. A lot of people doing things in the same direction with the same focus can move mountains. They build bridges. They build houses. They build the world. This world just didn't pop up. It's whatever we as a group can do, we will and shall always be able to create. That's where the longevity of the American Pit Bull Terrier is going to come from. That's the future I look to see 20 years from now. So if you get anything out of this conversation tonight, just take a look at some of the dogs that he put up, because we're always going back to Stone City, Big Mike, Victor, them, because them as people, and even with me and Jesse's relationship, Mo and Jesse had a great relationship. Me and Jesse didn't have a great relationship. We did have a great relationship, but even, some things can and will fall apart when you're trying to be shady. See, shady is what breaks up relationships. When you lose the integrity, and the biggest word for me, I don't use it enough, have respect for the next dog, man. Respect has a lot to do with how people treat you. In order for you to be my friend, I got to see how you handle other people. How do you handle other people? Are you respectful? Because respect generally gets you in the door. Now, how you handle it once you're in there is totally up to you. These things are things that we are grown people that we should be able to know and recognize. But even grown people have fallen outs. Brothers and sisters have fallen out. That's just a part of life. I just want you guys to don't get caught up in looking to be a friend, because most of the time when you see something you want, there's really unless you know that person, there's really no guarantee you're going to get what you want. So let's get back to reading the temperature of the room, reading the temperature of the person, you know, and that's going to cut down on a lot of the issues because we live in a different world today when it comes to these dogs. Tired of hearing all the bad news, and it's time to start hearing some good news. So y'all keep showing that love. Big shout out to my man Oat Man showing the love. Appreciate that, fam. I see you. Small time. I see you. Hold on. I still got 38 people in here. I mean, only 2 people are showing some love. It can't be that bad, fellas. I wouldn't care if you didn't put up a 1 rose, 1 muscle, and 1 thumbs up. That doesn't take much. But I ain't trying to be here all night and wait on them. So I guess the old cliche of doing things, it gets old as shit. But y'all got to remember, no, I'm one of them old guys. You know what I'm saying? I try to keep it simple. As long as you can keep it simple, it's supposed to be. Keep it simple makes things easier. But show your love. Don't forget to hit that like button if you haven't already done so. And regardless how bad things are, and if you're running solo or if you're running with your team, you know, you got to still have that one thing that matters more than anything when it comes to these dogs. You got to have you got to be gamer than the dog. Because I think just messing with pit bulls alone, it takes, you know, I mean, just having these dogs in the world in today's now, you got to have some big cojones based on the bad rap they get. And then it's them kind of people, it's you guys that make up this community. You know, you got to have this much gameness in you as your dogs. And regardless of how many times you fall, how many times breeding went wrong, you got to still be able to get up and keep trying, because sooner or later you will get it right. So that's where it comes from. You better always, I mean, always scratch the win, because that's where the success is going to come from. Whether you're breeding them, whether you're doing confirmation, wall climbing, treadmilling, just keep trying to be the best that you can be, because you guys are the future. We got to, sooner or later, we're going to stop living in the past. And when we stop living in the past, I probably won't be here long enough to see what the future looks like, because we way up there. But it would just be nice to see the direction is going on before we leave. But until then, we're going to try our best to keep doing what we're doing. And as long as y'all keep showing up, we're not going to let you down. But I did tell you at some point, you know, Mo finna have his operation, so I don't know how long he gonna be down. You know, the community as a whole, we still try to make it. It's not too much you haven't already heard, but the good thing about it is, if you're just taking just a little bit of what you hear and you learn from it, I hope it just makes you guys better dog, man, because that's really what matters. It's not trying to put nobody on a pedestal, but hey, we learn from somebody, you know, and I mean, we learn from a whole bunch of somebodies. So in order for you guys to appreciate that, we got to get out there and tell their story. And that right there is more important than trying to be #1 podcast, you know, in the dog community, because it's never really ever been about that anyway. It's about the history and the love of the game. So until we meet again, y'all know how I'm doing this. I want y'all to just rock out with me. Here I go. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Don't forget to check them cameras. Don't forget to check them chains. You know, don't forget to clean up that shit. Big shout out to all my other podcast family out there. My cappers. Who else I got out there? I got to check on my boy J-Bo and them. I hadn't really paid attention. I usually be catching their shows, but kind of hard for me to do now this last week, based on hospital visits. Hey man, before I get out of here, let me tell y'all something real quick. Live your life to the fullest, because tomorrow's never guaranteed. Keep that part in mind. I had a couple friends that passed here recently that weren't sick. You know, I mean, about 10 years younger than me, you know, and passed away. And it's just a hurting feeling, you know, because for me, I look at them like, damn, they couldn't even make it to my age. And there's a lot of life lost, you know, that they missed out on, you know. And I just want y'all to just take it. Everybody gets old at one time, but not everybody's guaranteed to get there. So stay safe, man. Take advantage of whatever time that you have, you know, and try to make the best of it. Because we wasted a lot of years in these dogs. And I ain't going to call it a waste, because it was just something we love to do. We didn't love it, we wouldn't do this. So y'all keep doing what you're doing. Remember, loyalty, honor, integrity. Throwing my word in there, respect. You know, integrity is a must. But the love of the dog is the most important thing that you can have in this game. Peace! I will see you guys Tuesday. Until then, enjoy your weekend. Yeah. I'm going to just let this rock out for a minute. But I'm with you. I'm out. Big shout out to my man, Oak Man. I see you, fam. Small time. Appreciate that. Blood Thirst #1, aka Havoc 360. I see you. My man, Burner Star. I see you, fam. I hear you, Mike. He said, I hear you, Mike. Lost my KP a year. My best friend since 2nd grade. Yeah, man, them ones. I guess, you know, getting up in age, when I look back on the burning, man, I stopped going to my boys' funerals, man, because it became such a big impact on me that, you know, the last thing I ever wanted to do is the last time I see you is laying on your back, them putting you in the ground. I started seeing so much of that, I stopped going, you know, because it kind of weighs on you, you know what I'm saying? But hey, that's why I'm telling you now. It ain't guaranteed. Do what you can. Take advantage of it, because it's not promised. Big shout out to my man Greater Dan. Always showing the love. Yeah.